Good. Well, for those who are here for the very first time, welcome. Just to be sure that you're in the right session, this is Infographically Speaking, Designing Dashboards for Impact, and I am Kevin Wee. Well, first of all, I just want to thank all of you for attending this, in the middle of a week. And for those who are watching this on Salesforce Plus, thank you for tuning in as well. Today we're going to have a lot of great content to cover. I'm going to start by showing you some of the dashboard that I created that have made some impact in the community of practice. Then I'm going to share some of my creation practice that maybe you could find a way to jumpstart yours as well. I'm going to continue my conversations with some of the lessons that I've learned in my journey. And then we're going to end the session with some of the open resources that you can get so that you can go back home and create your own infographic dashboards. So do stay to the very end of this presentation so that you can get every drop out of this. Now, let me talk about myself a little bit. My name is Kevin Wee. If we have any Mandarin speaking people here today, it's Huang Kewen. I've been using Tableau for 6 years. I started as a graduate student at Purdue University seeking a data visualization tool for my own project. I'm currently a lead BI analyst at Discover Financial Services. My main role in the company are mainly just to help internal business partners to find a way to address their analytical problems with creative visual solutions such as dashboarding or reporting. I am a Tableau visionary and a Tableau ambassador. That just means that I use Tableau so much and I couldn't shut up about it, which is what's going to happen in the next 30 minutes. So that's me. Now let's talk about you. By the end of this session, you should be able to, number one, identify Tableau products and design tools that you may leverage to create your own infographic dashboard. You should be able to describe data visualization and graphic design concepts that you could apply to create a well-designed infographic dashboards. You should also be able to obtain the open resource that I promise for you for your own inspirations and self-paced learning. So again, do stay to the very end. Now let's talk about some of my dashboards. If you have the chance to go to my Tableau public portfolio, you will notice that currently I have about 64 visualizations since 2020. About 70% of my visualizations are what I call an infographic dashboard. These are the dashboards that are not about business trends or performances. I mostly created them for fun, so they're more artistic and more interactive. And opposed to the business dashboards where the user is supposed to look at them, analyze it, and immediately get back to business, I would like my users to take more time to appreciate the dashboard, play with the interactivity, and kind of appreciate my creativity. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to use some of my creations as an example today. Number one is this dashboard that I've made. It is about dim sum dishes. How many of you have had dim sum before? Good, some of you, so you do know what it is. Okay, so I am half Cantonese, so this is my favorite food. So here are about 30 famous dim sum dishes where they're represented in lotuses. Each lotus represents a dim sum dish, and each of the petal represent a nutrient type, such as carbohydrates, protein, fat, cholesterol, and so on. The darker the color, the more nutritious a dim sum dish has in about like a specific nutrient type. And if you want to look for the detailed values of each of these colors, you just need to hover your cursor on one of the lotus and it will spit out the number in the bar charts. So these are for those bar charts lovers. This visualization has been featured in Andy Kirk's Data Visualization Handbook, which is a book that I myself deemed as a textbook when I was a graduate student. You can see how it's been used to discuss the use of small multiple chart types how to create a meaningful and descriptive text for title, as well as the applications of custom color legend. The second dashboard that I'd like to show you today is my Everything Everywhere All at Once visualization. How many of you have seen the Oscar-winning movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once? How many of you have cried while you're watching the movie? Oh, thank you for sharing your feelings. Who would have known that a family of immigrants dealing with taxes is so traumatic, right? So, let me tell you how to read the chart. On the left side here, each circle, the tiny ones, they represent a film played by or directed by any cast member of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it's arranged in a counterclockwise fashion according to the release year. The brighter the circle, the higher its IMDb rating. The bigger the circle, the more viewer voted it on IMDb. So the bigger, the brighter, the bigger deal that movie is. What's interesting about this visualization is that when I hover my cursor above one of the 4 bands on top right, the corresponding films would be highlighted. I personally have not seen an application of band in this way. If you have seen it, let me know. So for example, here if I hover my cursors over all films involving James Hong, all of these 102 films will be highlighted in the chart on the left. This visualization has actually been used to promote Tableau's own community project, the Data Plus Movies. If you go to tableau.com and type Data Plus Movies, you will see, scroll, my visualization as the second visualization used to promote people to promote the applications of Tableau Public and movie data in data visualization. This visualization is also one of the few that has been featured in imdb.com. So if you go to IMDb and scroll to the bottom a little bit, you would find that my visualization was one of the few has been featured. So this visualization has been used to showcase to the movie connoisseur community the power of using data to tell stories. As a matter of fact, I currently have about 4 to 5 visualizations that also been featured in Tableau Public landing page. These visualizations are currently used in a way to teach data visualization learners how to create visualizations that are interesting, creative, but also impactful. So, how did I do them? Let's talk about my creation practice. In most of my infographic dashboard designing process, it involves 3 phases: exploration, crafting, and release. I'm going to spend time talking about each of them one by one. First, let's talk about exploration phase, where I find a data set, prep and clean it, analyze it, and then come up with some ideas for my dashboard creation. In terms of data finding, I have 3 main ways to find a suitable data set for infographic design. Number 1, community projects, which I believe that you have heard some of them earlier in the keynote. These are the projects, these are essentially the data challenges led by community project leaders or Tableau itself, where they provide you a prompt and a rather clean and small data set for you to play with it and use it as a way to practice your Tableau skill. Such as Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, Back to This Basic, or Data Plus TV, Data Plus Movie. If you'd like to be a little bit more challenging, you could go to some trustworthy source and download the PDF or CSV file immediately. For instance, for the dim sum Viz, I went to the Hong Kong Center for Food Safety website and downloaded the PDF about the nutrition information of the dim sum dishes. And then I started from the PDF files, turn it into CSV, and start analyzing the data. The third way to do this, it's to me the most challenging. That is to use web scraping using Python and your coding power to go to some online databases and write a code and then scrape the data from these databases with the API information. So I'm currently learning how to do this, and maybe next time I can come back and talk about this. No promises. So these are my ways to find suitable data set for infographic design, infographic dashboard design. Now let's talk about prepping the data set. I mainly use two apps for this process. Tableau Desktop, if the data set is rather small, or Tableau Prep, if the data set requires a more intensive cleaning. These two apps, they are similar in many ways. You can write new calculation formula, you can filter the data set, you can join multiple tables together. But they have differences. In terms of Tableau Desktop, you can prep the data set and create visualization within the same environment. So you do not have to hop between different apps to do one project, which is a good thing. However, within Tableau Desktop, you could only pivot the table one time, which is a little bit annoying if your data set is not that clean. Also, if you need to create a 10-step calculation to make one cleaning procedure, it's hard for you to keep track on the procedure or to find out what's wrong in the process because it lacks like procedural indicator. These two weaknesses actually has been addressed in Tableau Prep, which is the strength of Tableau Prep. First of all, it has a flow diagram on the top, as well as the detailed one on the bottom left, telling you how many steps you have done to clean your data set. So if you want to tweak a specific step, it's easier for you to do so. Number two, it also have auto-generated histograms telling you the distributions of the metrics that you've been having, giving you some ideas about the natures of the metrics before you go into the visualization phase. Also, within Tableau Prep, you can actually pivot the table multiple times. So if you have a very nasty table that need some deep cleaning, this could be useful. Of course, Tableau Prep, it's still not the same app that you will later be used for dashboard design. So it's a little bit annoying if your team or yourself is a little bit financially conscious. You need to use two apps for this. So that's the difference between Tableau Desktop and Tableau Prep. The next step for my infographic design would be the visual analytics steps. A lot of people thought that, oh, visual analytics, so just keep creating charts and charts and charts and call it a day and put it together. No, it's actually more to that. To me, I always start with a question that I like to answer, and then I will move the pills within Tableau Desktop to create a graph, and then based on what I see, I'll try to generate some meaningful insights to generate another questions. It's a little bit abstract to describe it like this. From this step, moving forward, I'm going to use this visualization as an example, as a case study. So bear with me here. For instance, I'll start with how many movies were involved by the cast member all these years. So in Tableau Desktop, after loading the data in, I will move the pills around to generate, in this case, a line chart. And then based on what I see in the trend of the line, I'll tell myself, many movies were released in mid-80s to early 90s, and then the number grew since late 2000s. And then I'll just repeat the cycle over and over again until I have gathered sufficient information about the data set that I'm analyzing. So visual analytics is actually a cyclical process. After getting all of this information, I will enter the next phase, that is ideation. That is a phase where I'm trying to figure out what the dashboard would look like. For a lot of data practitioners and analysts, this step could be intimidating because after all, most of us have not had a formal training in fine art or graphic design, right? Fun facts. The last time I have had a fine art class was when I was 15, which is more than half of a lifetime ago. So how have I been doing it? So, two steps. Number one, I seek inspirations from relevant imageries. If the visualization is about a film, then I'll go check out the posters of the films or some iconic scenes in the films. If I started to realize that there's some interesting shapes that I can leverage in these ideas, I would go find some data visualization or scientific visualization that looks similar. Like this, I'm finding some circular circular chart here. So from these starting materials, the next step would be me creating text or geometric shapes that try to match the vibe. For instance, here we see the shape, right? The text is very bold, sans serif, left and right aligned. So I try to create the title case that look similar. Also, we're seeing a lot of bagels here. These are not donuts, these are bagels. So trying to draw a bagel in Figma. And I also noticed that for those who have watched the movie, the bagel represents black hole that's falling apart. So why don't we just draw some, line coming out of bagels? And then what if those sesames, those seeds on the everything bagels actually representing the films? So that is my thinking steps when I'm trying to generate a chart that I just showed you earlier. So after generating these visual components, it's time for us to move on to the next phase, which is the crafting phase. Because after all, we already have insights about the data set, and we have some starting ideas about what the dashboard should be. In terms of the crafting phase, I did not make the dashboard all at once. Instead, it's kind of like making a wedding cake or a microchip. You start, let's just use microchip as an example. I start by creating the motherboard first, which is a static, unchanged background image. And then I'll generate the chips, the transistors. Those would be the data visualization, the charts, the filters. And then on top of that, if I would like these charts to interact with each other, I would set up interactivities between these charts. So these are my 3 steps of crafting the dashboard. We're gonna walk through this one by one again. First of all, let's talk about making the background image. In Figma, which is the graphic design tool that I've just mentioned, by the way, it does not have to be Figma. Figma is just the tool that I use. Any graphic design software that can generate a PNG file, you can use it. If you want to use PowerPoint, be my guest. So, in my context, in Figma, within a canvas or rectangle, I'll try to arrange these static components in the canvas. And you'll be like, okay, you have title, you have body text, you have custom legends, and so on. How do you put them in a good way? So remember in the last step, which was the ideation phase, we generated some text block. We generated some bagels and some line, right? So what I did was just throughout different iterations, I tried to move them around in the canvas, trying to put it together in a way that looks good to me. And you're gonna be like, Kevin, I'm a data practitioner. I have no idea what looking good is. So here are some guidelines. Number 1, for me, my canvas, I try my best to keep it in a golden ratio. Golden ratio is just the width and the height of the canvas is 1.618 to 1. So why golden ratio? Because once you publish this to Tableau public, the thumbnail actually would be shown in the golden ratio, aspect ratio. So if you can fit everything within a golden ratio, then everything will be shown in the thumbnail. Number 2, I try to group all of those bodies together. So the custom legends goes together, the paragraphs of body text, they all go together. And I try my best to align them, and not just align them amongst themselves, I also try to align them with the modular grid. For those who are not familiar with the term, a modular grid is just, in my case, I'm using a 12 rows times 12 columns grids with gaps in between and margins surrounding it. So you can see that I'm trying to align everything with the grid. This is looking a little bit glitchy. I'm sorry, the file's a little bit big. So after generating the background image, I will export it from the graphic design tool that I use as a PNG file, and then I will load it to Tableau desktop. After that, I try to fit it in the center and removing all of the padding surrounding it. Because the dashboard dimension and the background image is matching 1-to-1, it should fit like fingers in a glove. After that, it's time to generate the chart for the dashboard. In this step, all of the charts, filters, and parameter switches, they are all generated mostly in Tableau Desktop. I'm not going to talk about how I generate this particular polar unit coordinates because that's not the point of today's presentation. But there are two tips I'd like you to bring back. Number one, you should try to be a little bit creative when you're leveraging the visual marks when you're creating the charts. So all of the shapes, the size, the columns and rows, you can create the basic area chart, bar charts, but in the context of infographic dashboard design, you could also wander a little bit off the usual options and try to generate something that are unique to yourself. The second tip is, a lot of times we try to fit in too much information in the infographics, but the best way would be letting the users to find these informations out on their own. So feel free to put some additional visualizations or tables in the tooltip so that the people that would like to learn more, they could play it on demand. Those that like to move on with their business, they're not being overwhelmed by the design of the overall dashboard. So that's the tips. After you're done creating whatever chart or bands that you want to make, you should remove all of those unneeded axis, lines, or background color. Why? Because you need to load them onto the background image. I usually use the float setting, so I will float the charts or the bands on top of my static background image, and I'll align them based on whatever visual cues I have had in the background image. For example, the polar coordinates on the left, or I'm using the right side of the text to align all of my bands as indicated there. So here you go. You have the background image, and on top of the background image, we have charts, filters, and parameters. But remember earlier, when you hover your cursor above one of the bands, it did something to the charts on the left. But currently they're not wired that way. Every charts work independently. So it's time for us to move on to the next step, which is setting up the interactivity. In Tableau Desktop, if you go to the menu and select Dashboards and Action, you can turn any charts into a highlighter, a filter, or a parameter switch. So I'm going to show you the example how I did the highlighting effect earlier. So in the Dashboard Action pop-up window, I'll select Highlight, and then I'll make it in the way that when you hover your cursor on one of the big aggregated number, this one, it would target the bagel on the left and only highlight any films with IMDb 7 or above. So that's how you're creating the highlighting effect. So that's it. Now, in your computer, your laptop, your PC, you have a working infographic dashboard. But wait a minute. That's not the title of today's presentation, isn't it? It's designing dashboards for impacts. So if a tree falls in your house, no one heard it, did a tree really fall? The next phase of crafting the dashboard for impact would be release it to the world, share your passions and your creations with the rest of the world. First of all, I always publish my finished work on Tableau Public. And after doing that, I will click the edit button here, and I will tweak 3 things. Number 1, the title. I always tweak the title so that it would fit under 2 lines when you're showing in the thumbnail. Because if you have anything more than 2 lines, it will be dots, and no one's going to read your title, so it becomes ineffective. Number 2, I will put some hashtags in the relevant hashtags in the Viz description session so that other people, they can find your visualization easier through whatever searching engine that they have. Number 3, if any public Tableau public visualization that has inspired my work, I would place their URL of their visualization in the inspiration session as well. It's always a good practice to give credits where credit's due. It's also an awesome opportunity for you to talk to those giants in a field saying that, hi, you inspire me, thank you very much. And they love it, I love it when people tell me that. So that's how you place it on Tableau Public. But how about the people that are not using Tableau Public? Remember our friends from Power BI? right? So how do we let people in Power BI know that, I've made something that's interesting? So I create social media posts on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, in English and Mandarin. Hi everybody, check out my visualization. I always provide a shortened URL in the first paragraph of my post. I also always provide screenshots of my visualization or a short video if the visualization has some interesting animation. The screenshots and animations would promote the outreach of your post. And also to make it further reach a bigger audience, I also use the hashtag and alliance like Tableau and Salesforce so that people that are following Tableau and Salesforce or data visualization, infographic, they would notice your visualization, your post. And of course, if anyone that have helped you in the process of creating your visualization, help you proofreading the final product, or inspire you even though they're not a Tableau public user, you should also give them credit, maybe in the second or the third last paragraph as well. If anyone has praised your work, give you some criticism, or ask you questions about your visualization, it's always good to engage in the discussion at the earliest time possible, just to keep your the visibility of your post going. So that's how I've been creating impactful dashboards. These are some lessons that I've learned in the process. So first of all, data visualization is beyond chart choosing. Especially in the context of creating something that's, more for fun, less about generating values for our shareholders. You have some rooms to, be a little bit flexible, be a little bit explorative. That would be the perfect time and environment for you to try something unusual. For instance, here today, I've demonstrated that we use rotation angle to represent release year. I use petals to represent different nutrient type. These are different ways for you to test out different ideas, and it's a perfectly safe environment to do that on Tableau Public. And if you don't like it, you can always hide your visualization and then test it else. The second lesson that I've learned is that design is beyond aesthetic. Like I said, you need to have an advanced degree in fine art or graphic design to do what I do, because I don't. But I always have one question that's been guiding my work. That is, what do I want users to experience when they interact with my dashboard, and how do I make it happen? Let me break this down for you. I, the creator, not anybody else. How do I make user to see, to read, or to feel when they come across the thumbnails of my dashboard, when they look at the charts, when they hover over or click anything on my dashboards? I, as the designer of their user experience, how do I make it happen? Let me use some examples here. When I wanted the users to be curious when they came across the thumbnail of my visualization, I used big shapes and saturated color as visual anchors, so that they would pop up in the seas of visualizations. When I wanted the users to be less overwhelmed when they came across this exploding, falling apart bagel, I provided sufficient negative space to reduce the cognitive load. When I wanted the users to understand this very complicated chart easier, I provided visual legends instead of paragraphs and paragraphs of text telling the user how to read the chart. So these are some examples. We're not here to make things beautiful. We're here to make sure that the users feel or see things that we want them to. Yeah, you can tell that I'm a control freak. So the third lesson would be inspirations come from everywhere. Earlier, in the case of the visualizations of everything everywhere all at once, I demonstrated how my work was inspired from movie posters, movie scenes, and other scientific visualization. But the fact is, the list can go on and on. In the past couple of projects, my visualization has been inspired by real-life objects, food, other Tableau public visualizations, digital science, and so on. you should pay attention to what you see and how it affects your thinking process and your feeling. And when you start to pay attention to that, and when you start to create your own infographic dashboard, you can actually reverse engineer it. You want people to feel and see a certain way, so maybe you can craft your dashboard in a certain way. The last lesson I'd like to share today is that growth happens one step at a time. It's very pompous of me to say this, but all of those outwardly visualizations that I've shown, they didn't happen overnight. In fact, these are my the very first month of me using Tableau public. You can tell that I'm still trying to learn the software, trying to find out where the buttons are. All of the colors are still very fundamental, very conservative, right? But as I'm more familiar with the software, as I start to learn more and more about graphic design, about user design, my visualization become more and more unique, the interface become more and more intricate. I start to be able to implement more and more complicated concepts in my dashboards. So things happened because I kept trying to push my own limit in dashboard design and graphic. I always ask myself, what's new this time? In this new project, what do I want to try when I create this dashboard? Just use some of the recent visualizations as an example. This visualization about data podcast, it's my very first visualizations where I learned how to do web scraping with ChatGPT. The dim sum viz was actually my very first viz that I learned how to put Chinese words in it, and as well as how to create curved polygons. The viz about the movie that we have talked about a lot today, that was actually my very first polar coordinate visualization. So I always try to do something a little bit different for my own sake as well. And at the same time, I just want to know how far we can push Tableau as a visualization software. So, remember I said that I will give you free open resources so that you can bring home and create your own infographic design. So this would be the time where you take your phone out and scan that thing. You will go to my blog where it has the slide deck and recommendations for some books. I know that they're not free, but also you would get to, you will have access to a lot of free YouTube channels, websites, blogs, where you get to learn more about infographic dashboards design. And once the recording's available on Salesforce Plus, I will put the URL on it as well, so you can revisit what I've shared today. We good? Good. Remember, we talked about the expectations I've had on you at the very beginning of the talk. Let's wrap things up together, shall we? Number one, I talk about Tableau Prep, Tableau Desktop, and Tableau Public, how I use them. I also talk about the community projects with good data sets for you to start learning how to create your own dashboard. I also cover, turn out you just need Figma most of the times to create good looking infographic dashboards. So it's a software that's mostly free. I've been using it for so long, I've never paid a cent for it, so that's good. We cover a lot of data visualization concepts, such as the cyclical nature of visual analytics, the creative use of visual encoding and marks, how to use dashboard actions to create interactivity between charts, and the applications of custom legends. We also cover how I did the ideation process, how to craft unique user experience. We also cover a lot of concepts such as the golden ratio, modular grid, visual anchor, and negative space. And if there's only one thing that you need to bring home, it's go to kevinwee.com. kevinwee.com. All of the resources are already available there, as well as all of the resources that I've shared every time I'm on stage. And don't forget that DataFam, which are the global Tableau user communities, this resource is free. You can reach out to anybody, try to ask them questions about their creations, ask them for their advice in career, or how to use Tableau as a software in analytics. So, These are my social media links. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or comments on my presentation. And I just want to thank Tableau and Salesforce for the talk invitation. I'd like to thank Discover Financial Services, my company, for sponsoring my trip to this year, as well as been feeling my data visualization journey and to help me with the rehearsal. Thank you for listening to this for so many times. I'd like to thank Lawrence and Sarah for letting me debuting my presentation at the Data Pride Tableau user group. I'd like to thank so many more people for inspiring my creation all these years. Thank you. And please fill in the survey. Your feedback is very important for me. If you have any questions about my presentations, you could approach me now or online. Thank you very much.